Good morning, keyboard cowboys, it's always morning. Hey, somebody on the forum wrote something. To me. Feckless Man from the forum writes, yo way, can we get another artytime thinky place up in this ma? Okay. It's time for... Hello and welcome to artytime thinky place with Way. Today we're going to learn about the joys of drawing. More specifically, line stroke and line style. Looking at our tools, you see that we have the traditional number 2 pencil, a calligraphy brush, and something you may not have seen before, a bamboo pen. We also have a tangerine. I'm just going to eat this later. Most beginning drawers draw the same way they write, from the wrist. While it's useful for small details and intricate little bits and pieces here and there in a piece, it's not the most efficient thing for nice curving lines. For freer, more open and gestural line work, it is best to hold the pencil overhand, in the same manner that a Neanderthal might hold a fork. If we move on to the inked drawing utensils, we find some very interesting effects. Holding a calligraphy brush upright takes a lot of practice, but can yield some beautiful lines. On the other hand, if you let your brush run out of ink, you can use the bristles to create something called a dry brush effect. Finally, some tools require you to hold them in very strange ways, such as the bamboo pen, which works better if held upside down. You can draw with it like you would write, but it is a little bit less efficient and much less pretty. Line thickness is also very important, as it is one of the most emotive qualities a line can possess. To encapsulate the idea, we hold drawing utensils differently in certain cases to get a certain quality of line. To see a direct do-it-yourself example of this, then just hold your pencil in different ways and try to write sentences. If you get really good at it, you find that you can completely adopt new handwriting styles. And that's why lines are really interesting. I bet you didn't know that lines are so interesting and emotive. Unless you're an artist or you go to art school, you're really observant. Otherwise, I totally showed you. Yeah, okay. So, how are you? How are you? Small talk, right? Usually when people ask how are you, they just want to get through standard social procedures. They don't really want to know how you actually feel. For me, that response is always pretty good. Maybe other people say things like I'm swell, or I'm doing fine, how are you? Only to receive another I'm good too. But then sometimes, how are you is something else. Sometimes a close friend or a lover might say, how are you? Or what are you thinking? It's interesting that one of the most common social conventions is also one of the most important questions we can ever ask another person, or ourselves. How are you? Implicit in the question is both the act of saying something and listening, but most of the time the question is just used for the purpose of speaking and hearing. And that's what the Witnessing Project is about, but I've decided to call it Small Talk. Jethro Robot suggested that, and I really like the name. Here's how it works. There will be a thread in the forum called the Small Talk Project. In this thread, one person goes and chooses to respond to any kind of small talk question. How are you? What was your day like? What are you thinking? A penny for your thoughts? Except the person who's sharing is actually going to answer that question the way it's meant to be. This is the place to take phrases that are ordinarily meaningless and turn them into something that has a great meaning to you. This is where you get to tell your story, what you're thinking, or how you're feeling, or why you're feeling it. You can talk about anything, your pain, your happiness, your sadness, your meditations on life. It's the role of everyone else to listen respectfully, to observe and take the opportunity to learn something about somebody else. It's the opportunity to use those empathic muscles, to feel compassion and to understand other people's problems and passions. More importantly, it's also a chance for us all to get to know each other better. I've always gotten the feeling that we're an extremely diverse group and we could do with some bonding time. So the conversation will last 4 days. If it's run its course before then we'll just move on to the next person. If it goes on longer than 4 days, then a separate thread will be made for the discussion to continue on. Sharing is completely voluntary and you can do it as many times as you like so long as 2 people have had the chance to go after your last time going. Hell, if you really need to talk about something and you don't want anyone to know who you are, you can ask me and I'll put in your message anonymously. This might take a couple tries to figure out, so I'll go first to set the example. There's a link in the description to the previous explanation of this idea when it was still called the Witnessing Project if you're interested. I'll be going on Friday and I'll let you know where the thread is in Friday's video as well. Let's small talk. This is Way on the Great Adventure.